As a convoy took Rafic Hariri along this route in downtown Beirut, none of his heavily armed bodyguards realized they were traveling behind a vehicle packed with explosives. And then this. His assassination created carnage. "22 other people were killed and scores injured.
This is precisely where the bomb exploded. The force of the blast was concentrated by these two buildings on either side, which still bear the hallmarks of the explosion. According to tribunal investigators, it wasn't a rocket or a bomb placed underground that created a crater 5 meters deep, but 2,500 kilograms of TNT.
Bringing Hariri's killers to justice has pitched this senior Australian police officer into a multinational intrigue.
Was there a sense while you were there that it was all too hard politically?
I think we always knew it was going to be a difficult road for the authorities to deliver those who were sought by the tribunal.
Now, one of the most powerful figures in the Arab world, fiery Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, is calling Kaldas a stooge for Israel and the CIA.
They're very, very hurtful, damaging allegations. No evidence whatsoever has been put up by him.
At first, Lebanon's longtime neighbour and occupier, Syria, was blamed for the killing. Huge demonstrations in Beirut, backed by international outrage, saw it booted out. Then in 2009, after years of ineffective investigation, the UN Security Council formed a powerful special tribunal.
It is critical that the people of Lebanon see that this tribunal is an independent and impartial institution.
Kaldas spent 12 months leading the hunt for Hariri's killers.
I think there was an awareness that what we were doing was going to be controversial and that it may have caused strife in Lebanon.
Started here.
Ultimately, he went along this route here.
Now he's accusing Hezbollah, the so-called Party of God, Lebanon's most powerful political player.
You do get to a point in an investigation where you're satisfied that a person or group or individuals are responsible for the murder. You do need to eliminate all the other possibilities, and I think that happened in this case, but then you have to focus and become committed to the direction in which you're heading. You need to pursue it to the nth degree, hopefully to prove it.
And that direction was Hezbollah?
Ultimately, that's where we ended up, yes.
6 years after the assassination, finally, some arrest warrants. Two of Hezbollah's most senior operatives, Mustafa Badruddin and Salim Jamil Ayash, have been indicted for the murder, along with 2 other members. But Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah says he will never deliver the men to the special tribunal.
وبعتقد لا ب 30 يوم ولا ب 60 يوم ولا بسنة ولا بسنتين ولا ب 30 سنة ولا ب 300 سنة بيقدروا يلاقوا أو يعتقلوا أو يوقفوا.
Hezbollah has always marketed itself as a national resistance to Israel and as well as to the United States. The culture of impunity, obviously the post-war...
Michael Young is an author and journalist with the Lebanese English language newspaper, The Daily Star. He's following the case closely.
Hezbollah is armed. It's probably stronger than the Lebanese army. It's certainly more cohesive as a force. It's basically a state within a state in many respects. And that's why it's extremely difficult today for an ideal Lebanese state to impose its will on Hezbollah.
Sheikh Nasrallah's image is everywhere in South Beirut. It's from here that Hezbollah effectively controls Lebanon. Going after the movement was never going to be easy, but investigator Nick Kaldas says he had to put politics aside.
We simply saw it as a murder, and we tried to approach it as a murder investigation. We certainly didn't see it as a political exercise.
This was a political crime. This was not a robbery or a murder, a simple murder. It was a political crime from the outset. Identifying the guilty was necessarily going to have profoundly political implications.
And nothing is as it seems in Lebanon when it comes to politics. The UN was stepping into a political minefield. The investigation has been mired in controversy since it began in 2005. Its biggest bungle was the arrest of this man, Mustafa Hamdan, one of Lebanon's highest-ranking security generals, along with 3 other generals.
كيف قعدت أنا مخطوف لمدة 4 سنين بخطفتني الأمم المتحدة ما حدا بيعرف اشرحوا لنا.
When Kaldas took over the hunt for Hariri's killers in 2009, the first thing he did was set them free.
We had to decide whether there was any evidence to justify their continued detention, and there clearly wasn't. So the best thing we could do was to announce that fact as quickly as possible and have the men released.
How controversial was that?
Very controversial, and it made the front page, obviously. But if you were politically inclined, you could say that this was an anti-Hariri development. And that's why I say that our re-investigation of the evidence against those 4 generals, the fact that we undertook that investigation as quickly and thoroughly and professionally as we did and announced a result as quickly as we did, I think shows quite clearly that there was no political interference in the investigation.
But General Hamdan isn't about to forgive and forget.
مشان هيك مستر كاليداس يسمح لي ما يربحني جميلي مش هو اللي أطلق سراحي ولا هو اللي كشف انه انا ما دخلني وقالوا هو انت جاي رئيس لجنه التحقيق لتشوف مين قتل رئيس الحريري بطل مصريات وفلات شو عملت بهالسنه؟
Hezbollah declined several Dateline requests for an interview. But Hassan Nasrallah, a journalist from a Hezbollah-affiliated newspaper, Al-Akhbar, was more forthcoming, and he's gunning for Kaldas.
يعني مع احترامنا للسيد نيك كالداس، أولا هو ما بيعرف لبنان. هو شك أنا إذا قبل هلا أو لأنه أصله مصري لأنه اشتغل بالعراق مع الجيش الاحتلال الأمريكي، فمن الطبيعي إنه بيعرف المنطقة بشكل عام شوي، بس أكيد هو ما بيعرف لبنان، هو ما بيعرف حزب الله، ما بيعرف هيدا الجسم شو اشتغل، ما بيعرف هيدا التنظيم شو اشتغل إلا اللي بيقراه من الإعلام.
There are media outlets who are supportive of Hezbollah, who attacked me for going in the first place, and then once I announced my resignation and returned to Sydney, attacked me for leaving. It doesn't make any sense, but a lot of things don't make sense, I guess, in that part of the world in politics.
This memorial to Rafic Hariri stands in the centre of Beirut. A constant reminder of his devastating assassination and Lebanon's obligation to find his killers. The country has poured millions of dollars into the international investigation. And for those who believe the bulk of the work has been done by local officers, Nick Kaldas is a symbol of money wasted.
هذا الرجل بنى عمله على دماء الشباب اللبنانيين وعرقهم، على دماء الضباط اللبنانيين وعرقهم. لم يفعل شيئا ذي قيمة. هاي هي الخلاصة.
And this is the man Kaldas readily acknowledges played a vital role in cracking the case. A young Lebanese officer named Wissam Eid. Eid began analysing phone records before and after the Hariri assassination. He found what the tribunal calls the Red Assassination Network and the Green Network involved in coordinating the hit. The phone networks led investigators to the alleged killers.
And that's what you look for, people who may have been activated, or phones that may have been activated in contact with each other in the lead up to the assassination, perhaps at the time of the assassination, and then immediately afterwards. And that shows a pattern of coordination, a level of coordination between those phones.
The UN investigation had been criticised for largely ignoring Eid's work, even losing his report. But Kaldas says he seized on it.
Absolutely indispensable in taking the work forward. I think Wissam Eid was someone, and I didn't get to meet him, I don't know him, but from everything I've heard, He was someone who knew what was right and what was wrong, and he knew that even though there was a real danger to himself and to those around him, he still proceeded because he felt that was the right thing to do.
In January 2008, Wissam Eid suffered the same fate as Rafic Hariri, blown to pieces by a car bomb.
But I think Wissam Eid himself was a hero.
Hero to the tribunal and martyr to his community. Wissam Eid is celebrated in his hometown near Tripoli in northern Lebanon.
بعد اغتيال ابنك شو حسيتوا؟
عم تقولي اغتيال وابني، شو بدي حس؟ حسرات وقهر وعذاب راحت فقد ابني.
شو بدي افكر؟ حرموني منه، شو بدي افكر يعني؟ الله يرحمه، بدل ما يكفي حياته يساب اول عمره، بدل ما زوجه وافرح فيه دفنوا لي اياه، حتى ما شفته يعني لما مات. ما في مجال تشوفيه لانه ما مخلين منه شيء.
Make no mistake, those who committed the assassination of Wissam Eid did so to send a message to the tribunal or the commission as it was, and that is to back off and stop the investigation.
Wissam Eid's death became a symbol of Lebanon's so-called culture of impunity. Killers could seemingly strike at will. The nation mourned his death, and the tribunal drew an even tighter cloak around his work, or so they thought. This is Wissam Eid's office, where much of his groundbreaking work was done. But this inner sanctum has been breached many times. His work comprehensively leaked to Hezbollah and Beirut journalists, including Hassan Nasrallah from the Al Akhbar newspaper.
One witness that the tribunal will rely on.
You also have information about the witnesses.
He showed me a number of documents from Lebanese intelligence relating to the Hariri investigation, including this, handwritten by Wissam Eid in January 2006. It includes the mobile phone numbers of the accused. Hassan Nasrallah also has numerous files relating to other high-profile killings linked to the Hariri murders.
Has the case been compromised?
It's unfortunate that perhaps some previous staff members or someone with a grievance has sought to leak some aspect of the investigation. That it's human nature, and that happens. It's disappointing, but the bottom line is I don't think it's had an impact on the investigation or the integrity of the investigation. The evidence is what it is.
Is there some sort of protection afforded to witnesses at the moment?
There is protection available, and I'm certain that the prosecutor in particular and the office of the prosecutor would do everything they can to protect witnesses.
Not only has the information been leaked, Hezbollah is mounting a full-scale counterattack. At this Hezbollah press conference, telecommunication experts dismissed the tribunal's evidence of phone networks allegedly used in the Hariri killing.
يعني وقت بتاخذ رقم المشترك بصير انت عم تتصرف عنه، فيك تتصل منه، فيك تخلق له خدمات جديده، تقمص شخصيه المشتركين، كل هالشيء بيؤدي انه انا بقدر اتقمص شخصيه حدا ثاني واشتغل عنه أزف انا هو الشخص الثاني، اللي هي بسموها بالاي تي بالسايبر كرايم identity theft.
According to Hezbollah, Israel has compromised the Lebanese phone system.
إن اختراق العدو لقطاع الاتصالات أفقد داتا الاتصالات قيمتها الثبوتية.
But Nick Kaldas doesn't accept the tampering theory.
No, I don't. The place to have that discussion and any allegations or answers in relation to anything being manipulated is the courtroom. A properly constructed trial with evidence being given and witnesses testifying and being cross-examined. It's easy to stand up on a podium and make really spurious, unprovable allegations when you're not being cross-examined on them. It's very easy to throw out these scurrilous allegations, and I think it's cowardly in many ways.
Sheikh Nasrallah continues his campaign against Kaldas. This press conference included a video.
الاسم نجيب نيك كلداس، الجنسية أسترالي من أصل مصري، ضابط في الشرطة الأسترالية. الارتباط بالأمريكي، لديه ارتباط بوكالة الاستخبارات المركزية الأمريكية CIA، وقد عمل في العراق عام 2004 لإنشاء جهاز استخبارات للشرطة العراقية في ظل الاحتلال الأمريكي.
And last year, he presented his own evidence that Israel carried out the hit.
Firstly, there is not one skerrick of evidence to suggest any involvement from Israel or anybody else who's been accused by Hezbollah. Secondly, I think if you look at pure motive, political causes and so on, I'm not sure that Israel or anybody who's aligned with them has actually gained by the assassination of Mr. Hariri. In fact, the opposite.
According to Kaldas, it's more likely that Hezbollah's strategic partners, rather than its enemies, may have been involved.
Hezbollah would not have taken such a dramatic step, such as the assassination of Hariri, without at least the blessing and possibly the support of those two entities, Syria and Iran.
With Hezbollah determined to never hand over the accused, it seems the Hariri case is moving towards a trial in absentia.
مين قتل رفيق الحريري؟
بس نعرف مين قتل جون كينيدي. بجاوبك على هذا السؤال.
What does Hezbollah have to be afraid of?
The truth. That's basically it. The only thing that you can say Hezbollah and Mr. Nasrallah, and the only reason they're attacking the investigation as they are at the moment is because they do not want the truth to come out.
6 years after the carnage of the Hariri assassination, much has changed in Lebanon and the Middle East. Hezbollah is stronger than ever, and if the Lebanese have grown weary of this drawn-out hunt for Hariri's killers, Nick Kaldas is urging them to stay the course.
I think that the Lebanese people, the international community, have a responsibility, an obligation to support the tribunal and the trial going ahead. It is justice in its absolute form. It is the only fair process that can be undertaken once people have been indicted for a murder as grave as that of Mr. Hariri. And I think to back away from that effort now will undo a whole lot of people's work, and people like Wissam Eid will have died in vain.
This sign says the truth for the sake of Lebanon. But that truth may be too tightly bound in the complex politics of the region to ever be revealed.